Just visualize going up and giving it a hug. And every time that happens, that thing just goes away. It disappears. When you give it love, or some message comes through where you're like, oh, that was a part of my subconscious, or that was a part of me that I was ignoring. And when I gave it love, it transformed into like a flower. And so,
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read that you sometimes refer to a God frequency, or is that, or do you like to refer to it more as like nature?
for me, I believe in God, I believe in family, and I believe in nature, and those are the three things that I, quote, pray to. And so, God is everything, everywhere. I believe that this frequency of God is in everything and everyone.
Well, and what is the core truth that they're seeking, or that you would love for them to receive when they work with you, or when they're even getting to listen to this conversation today?
I think a lot of people are realizing that they might have the dream job, or even the dream family, dream partner, but something's missing. That they know that there's something else out there. There's something bigger, and I'm finding a lot of people are wanting to tap into that. What is their purpose for living?
Well, welcome back to the Healing You Method podcast. I'm Gloria Leibecker, and I'm here with my co-host, Gail Donahue. And our show really focuses on conversation plus integration, warm, embodied, trauma-informed conversations grounded in the truth that all healing is relational.
Today, we're joined by Matthew Grizz Berrier, and Grizz serves family-oriented individuals. He brings a grounded lens to nervous system safety, grief, and what it can look like to approach sacred ceremony with love, humility, and real integration. Grizz, we're really glad that you're here and excited to learn about what you offer.
Yeah, thanks for having me, y'all. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And before we dive in, I just want to give a quick reminder to our listeners that this is a conversation for education and reflection. It's not medical or legal advice, and we'll stay centered on the nervous system wisdom, safety, and integration. So, Gres, for people meeting you for the first time, what's the heart of your work in plain language?
Giving people a safe opportunity to come experience nature in a sacred ceremonial setting, to deepen their connection into nature in some of the most magical ways.
Wow, sounds lovely. And of people that would be thinking about it, do you have a group that you sort of feel most served to call right now? And if you do, is there something that you sense or have that you know that they're quietly might be carrying and needing your support and this ceremony?
So I had a conversation. We're actually just getting back from North Carolina, hosting a sacred ceremony, and a conversation came up where I was helping someone process, basically answering that question. And I told them that oftentimes our mind wants to strategize and plan and say, if I do this, then I'll get this, or if I do this, then I'll be able to attract this person. And I found that when we just go to our heart
Mm.
and do what we love, that it's so much easier that way. And I think we've all heard that. It's so much easier if you just go to your heart and stop trying to strategize and plan. And so as I do that, as I just do what I love, follow my calling and my purpose, it's naturally attracting family oriented people, just like how you introduced me. And so I'm finding that a lot of moms, dads, people that have kids and families are naturally drawn to the work that I do.
Yeah. Well, and what is the core truth that they're seeking, or that you would love for them to receive when they work with you, or when they're even getting to listen to this conversation today?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are realizing that, they might have the dream job or even the dream family, dream partner, but something's missing, and they they know that there's something else out there. There's something bigger, and I'm finding a lot of people are wanting to tap into that. What is their purpose for living? And um, when you come to this space that we're creating, a lot of people are tapping into that and uncovering that truth of, in my belief, why they came down here to Earth. And so I think it has something to do with serving others, and that's how I try to live my life is being in service to others more than service to self. So
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And that's, I think aligned to what Gloria and I love to offer through this podcast. And there's something I wanted to ask you a question and connect with, because we really feel that honesty is important, and good information and safe experiences for our nervous system are
right.
so important. And I recall in some of the information I've read about you that you name a misunderstanding that you'd love to correct, that sacred medicine is scary and it has to be hard. And so, what would you want people to understand instead?
Well, what comes up is this is really serious work, and people, it's becoming, I would say, more of the trendy thing to do now. It seems like every a lot of people are having this calling to serve medicine or to serve people in a ceremonial setting. And what was the question? I'm sorry. The specific question around.
Yeah, that some people think that sacred medicine is scary and it has to be hard. So, what would you love people to understand instead of that perception?
Yeah, it all has to do with that container you're setting. And if someone is feeling safe, and as we attract more like minds, so more families, more moms and dads, I'm finding that they can relate to me and my team because we all have families, we're all married, we have kids. And I tell people often not to go online or YouTube and look up these sacred ceremonies that we lead, because you'll see all kinds of information, and there's all different types of lineages, ways to run ceremony. And the way we do it, we speak English. And again, we have our families a lot of times present, and so that just creates this energy and container that a lot of people can relate to, and they feel safe. And so when you come do this work, it's not complete darkness and um, purging and crying. There might be a little of that, but they're often tears of joy. And we consider what we do a celebration of life. And so while this is very serious work, you're coming and you're really open, and your spirit and your soul is really exposed. And that's why it's very important to understand the people that are facilitating, that are creating these containers, or even leading these ceremonies. It's
Yeah.
very important to have that in order to have a safe ceremony where you're comfortable and it doesn't have to be hard. And yeah, this weekend in North Carolina there was a lot of dancing, um, a lot of celebration, a lot of laughing, and so um, they're not always that way, and you can never predict these things, but more times than not, it is a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like the facilitator would be so important, and the people that are facilitating it, that really like paramount. And I love the fact that you said you have family there as well. That's
Mhm.
pretty, I have never heard that before. So that's one, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So speaking of family, Chris, I'd love to just gently step into a part of your life where you had quite a big turning point. And I'm wondering if it would be okay to share that turning point that shaped your life. Does that feel?
Yes. Yeah, I think it is, and it's a perfect segue into this. Like I've mentioned to you, as a kid growing up, I've always been deeply connected into nature, and I think I've shared a few stories of walking through the forest, and it seemed like almost every day I was in the creeks catching tadpoles and frogs and climbing the trees and just deeply connected to nature. And when I look back on that, the term that we use now is spiritual. I was always deeply spiritual. I didn't know that was the word back then when I was a kid, but just deeply connected to God, deeply connected to nature. And in 2013, my spirituality, that path really took off. Uh, we lost a daughter. Our daughter passed away in 2013, and so there were lots of paranormal, supernatural things happening right after she passed. And there were toys that were lighting up and going off in the house, and different things making noises. And there were times where they were distracting us with whatever we were doing in the house, maybe playing a board game and something lighting up. And so we were like, hey, let's take those batteries out that is distracting us, that light. And we'd go over to take the batteries out, and then there were no batteries in that toy. And
Mm.
the same thing, some of these toys had to be plugged in to the wall, and they weren't plugged in to the outlet, and they were still going off, making noises and lighting up. And so that really took me down this path of wanting to understand what was going on behind the scenes, because it was pretty undeniable that there was something else that was true, that was the truth that was going on behind the scenes. And I also share with some people that the car alarms, they would go off like on her birthday at midnight or Christmas at midnight, and they would never go off any other time of the year. um, Another really beautiful story, a couple days after she passed away, her name was Brianna. Her initials are BB, so her spirit animal is the bumblebee.
Oh,
And we heard a knock at the door, and I went to the door, and there was nobody there. But I noticed there was this bumblebee that was flying into the glass pane of the door. And so, open the door and she flies in. And so a lot of those things were happening that
mm.
had me connect deeper into a lot of the local spiritual meetup groups here in Kentucky, and that kind of started my path down this line of work.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. What a turning point. That's amazing. And obviously, with the death of your daughter, I imagine that there was a lot of pain and grief there that was there. And I was just wondering, how did you deal with that and stay connected with your heart when there was this grief and pain?
Yeah, there's a lot of counseling, a lot of grief counseling, and it was beneficial. It was good in the beginning, but we found that it kind of kept you in this loop,
Mm.
and um, this space really provided, I would say, the healing a lot of times, and we say it too, but the work we do, 2 nights of the work we do on a weekend is equivalent to 30 years of therapy. And so, uh, just one of the the things that shifted for me was during a sacred ceremony, being able to see and feel my daughter as if she was really there, and she was. A lot of these visions and things that we see and feel are really hard to explain in ceremony, but when you experience it and you feel it and you see it and have things happen, smells that are just undeniable, and just that connection, it lets you know that, in my opinion, that when you die, I don't think that's the end. And I think that energy doesn't die. It just goes into a new form. And to know that our daughter is always around, and to actually like live that and to believe it, and it not just be like a thought or something that you read, but to actually experience that, is very, very healing. So, um,
Oh, sounds beautiful. It sounds like you really have a totally different way of looking at what a death means and compared to what generally we deal with. And it sounds like it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's,
I really resonate with you there, Grizz. With my two oldest grandchildren passed, and I've had some similar experiences, particularly with my granddaughter, Sierra. And so there's this felt sense that you have, this inner knowing that's undeniably true.
Mm.
And what I'm also hearing you describe in the container or the settings that you provide this service from your heart is that you really are connected with nature, with all of nature, and that the spirit of loved ones is a part of that container, that of that nature, our true nature, if you will. And that's the in a sense it's like it's a grounding rod of truth for you as you move through your life experiences.
yeah. And we weren't super religious growing up. Like my parents, they would maybe go to church once a year. My dad, he would uh, say it was more of like a giving gratitude, respectful kind of practice. But he would say a prayer before we would eat meals, and as we would go to bed, um, just giving gratitude to God. And um, but I say that because, especially in this space, uh, not not knowing if this is the right thing to do. And what I mean by that is, it seemed like religion comes up a lot in these spiritual practices, and it's something that we weren't necessarily taught as kids, like, um, connecting deeply with nature. And so, the medicines that we work with, take you to these places where you're connecting with these different things. And, maybe we've read that, like, oh, if you're connecting with, the spirit of something, it's the devil or it's bad. And so I was really struggling with that for a long time, until I can just only say it was God that gave me this message that asked me, what am I? What am I made up of? And the answer was nature. When you take a microscope and you drill down to the cells of our skin, you're going to see all these little things moving around, these organisms, and that is nature. And so the message to me was, if we're working with nature, how can that be the devil, or how can that be bad? We are nature, and this medicine we're working with is a part of us. And so, um, that gave me a lot of relief to continue to do this work, because I want to be the best at everything I do, and especially in this work. And so to know that I'm doing the right thing, is very important to me, and that really helped guide me into
Hmm.
accepting that this is good work.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds, I think I might, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read that you sometimes refer to a God frequency, or is that, or do you like to refer to it more as like nature?
Yeah, a lot of people that come to our space, and that's what's beautiful about what we do, is it doesn't matter what you believe in, what God you believe in, what religion you believe in. uh, this work that we do, it taps you in and connects you closer to whatever your beliefs are.
Mm.
And for me, I believe in God, I believe in family, and I believe in nature. And those are the three things that I, quote, pray to. And so, God is everything, everywhere. I believe that this frequency of God is in everything and everyone, and so um, it's something that like I don't know how we can really say that something is 100% truth, but for me, my belief is that yes, we're all part of this vibration, spirit. Some people call it God, and so yeah, that's what we talk to and connect to in these ceremonies. And nature is up there as well with that frequency of God, because I feel like a lot of what's around us is nature, and God made nature, and so it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love that. Everything's energy and information flow and how
Mm.
you tune into it. There's one other thing that you've talked about, and that's about going one step above awareness, where you said, who is aware that you're aware, the observer. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to invite you to describe that in a way that perhaps our listeners could then begin to feel that in their own body.
Yeah, there's meditations out there that can kind of tap you into that frequency. Um, but sometimes you can just, think of something, think of anything. What comes to your mind when I say think of something, and then if you can't think of anything, what pops into your head? Maybe it's a red car, maybe it's a house, maybe it's a tree. And so that's a thought. That's a thought in your mind, but who is aware of that thought? What is aware of that thought? And so it really helps take you to this place of we are not our thoughts.
Mm,
There's something else going on behind the scenes that's aware of all of this. And so when we begin to zoom out, and it's a practice, um,
mhm,
you will find, in my experience, that we are not our thoughts. We are not our body. A pain, or we move our hands, or have something sore. When we zoom out, it's that deeper awareness. We're aware of what's going on in our body or our minds, and so that practice always connects me deeper into our spirit, our soul, what we really are, in my opinion.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would imagine too that I know in the line of work that I do and Gail does, there's a difference there between observing or dissociating. So do you have experiences where people might actually kind of go into that borderline between being able to stay in that observer, or maybe they go into a little overwhelm with
Yes, it's
dissociation?
you know it's it's something that's not really taught in the schools, and it's a
So
Mm.
true.
it's a it's
Yeah.
a practice every day. I think that no matter how experienced you are, as you continue to do this, you'll learn something new every day, every time that you go deeper into this kind of a practice. But yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a you know it's yeah it's a fine line, but I think that um, and this is in my experience, you know, if you have you know, maybe mental issues or you're not as stable, you know, you could definitely like your reality, um, you know, you could go too far, but that's where, you know, having, you know, maybe someone that is a friend or someone experienced or licensed in this space can help guide you in this process.
Mhm.
But you know, I think that just the simple practice of observing your thoughts and really like what we talked about a few minutes ago, just thinking about like who, you know, who is aware of these thoughts that you're having, just kind of going in and out of that, you know, once a day or once a week. You shouldn't go too far, but you know, a lot of times if you put on like a playlist and meditate and lay down and really go deep into it, you can, you know, you can go kind of far into that practice. But I've never experienced, you know, going too far where um, I come out of that and it's like a negative experience. You know, if I go super deep, I think it just connects me deeper to God, actually.
Yeah.
But yes, that can be kind of rocking when people aren't used to like thinking from that perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and what I was in as you were talking, what was coming up for me is h- how do you work with someone that they want to be there and to do this, but then they're wanting to avoid the feelings. You know, like you're wanting to take them to these places, but then you can tell that there's some barriers coming up. What happens then?
So that was maybe the case when I first started this journey, and I'm finding that um, again it's a fine line because this conversation came up the other day where um, I was processing this in my head and I was thinking, you know, uh, do I want people that are just like me all around me, or do I want a whole lot of different people around me? And you know, you've probably heard the thing where it's like, you know, uh, everyone can't think like you and be just like you. You have to kind of accept the differences in everyone. And as I move into this space, I'm finding that, you know, I don't want just a lot of like yes men and people that only agree with me. But it does feel, I was going to say good, but it there's less resistance when you start working with more like-minded people, and that kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation where the closer we go to our heart, not everyone has to agree with me, and that's okay. But the more I move into my heart and my truth, I'm finding that there's less and less of those experiences, and it's easier. There's just more ease and more flow, and when I'm going through these practices, there's less of that resistance where maybe people are uncomfortable or they're like not wanting to go there. So usually when people come to me, they're ready to go. And you know, there's nothing wrong with having resistance or maybe feeling uncomfortable or a certain way. But I'm finding that again, you know, the more passionate I am about what I'm doing, it's calling in these people that are ready. You know, they're ready to go
Mhm.
there, and so it's
Mhm.
not as hard. There's not as much resistance there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've talked about a framework that you have, a simple framework where you go to the heart and then you can create that sense of that, what I call the neuroception of safety around, quote, those negative feelings, but to allow the feelings and to allow the body to transmute. Couldn't you kind of take us through that step by step? Is that possible?
Um, yeah, so it's really specific to each person, and so like
Mm,
you know, typically uh, the practice revolves around just going to the feelings that really light your heart up. And
Mm,
again, it's individual, and it's very tailored to what that person is like going through and processing. um, but if you can go to a time where your heart felt full and you felt a lot of love, it's really going to that core vibration and then expanding on that and building on that.
mm,
And yeah, a lot of times you know it 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 doesn't really matter what that person is going through, and we tailor it to be applicable to that scenario for that person. But um, the common thread and theme with a lot of this is just getting the person to go to those memories and those feelings where their heart felt full and you felt a lot of love, and
mhm,
just sitting in that, and that I'm finding naturally dissolves a lot of the issues people are having. And on top of that, I'm finding that a lot of pain, a lot of people's problems and struggles and what they're going through in their daily life, whether it's their marriages or their work, it comes down to that purpose. And
mm,
I'm finding that and even in my case, uh, when I lost my purpose, um, things around me seem to just not feel good, is the best way to
mhm,
put it, and uh, different triggers that would come in, whether it's the kids or a friend or the wife. um, they had more weight and more impact on me when I lost that sense of like purpose and what I needed to be doing with my
mm,
life and my bigger work. But when I tapped back into my purpose, my calling, that passion
mm,
filled up all those voids and those spaces of being triggered. And even my time, making flutes is something that I love to do, out of cedar wood, and talking on calls like this,
mhm,
filling up the spaces where I'm not dwelling on something in my mind or being distracted. And it's almost like your spirit is just so full that all these other little things where your energy was maybe leaking into, it's plugged up. And
mm.
you're less rocked and just more solid.
Wow. Well, that sounds amazing. I'm kind of thinking, oh, I really want to look at doing this. This is so interesting. Um, but I am really curious about what happens like for people after the ceremony, and like what is your approach for supporting people for integration after, like keeping the integration or facilitating it? Can you give us some info on key insights to really keep that change embodied?
Yeah, so in this space there's traditionally like a Zoom call, and it can vary on frequency. If it's just 1 month after, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months of follow up integration calls. But in my experience, some of the best integration processes, ways to integrate, is connection and providing people with the opportunity to connect. And so calls are great, but also opportunities to meet up in person. Even, we have a private group chat, and people are always like updating people with pictures
Mm,
and sharing stories. And so, the integration calls are usually once a month, but having something where people can plug in and really stay connected, whether it's in-person meetups that we will have, or these group chats where people can stay connected. And I'm finding that uh, a big part of this work is the connections that we make before and during ceremony. And so a lot of these times you'll come out, especially if you have the container, and you vet people, and it kind of goes back again to those like minds. Um, these people are coming together and like, wow, I really connect with this person. They exchange information and then they continue to talk, or they start a business together. And so, I'm finding that integration traditionally has been like, um, for a lot of other groups, like a Zoom call, or like more like one-on-one work, like journaling. But for me, what I'm finding is like the connection and the friendships, uh, is is
Yeah.
is a big part of integration, and I'm finding that is really helping people, um, the most. Building with each other.
Yeah. Sounds like you're really facilitating building a community. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A
That's
community that grows and can keep that
Hmm.
purpose, the alignment front and center in their lives and not have it sort of take pulled away.
yeah, it sounds like an
Yeah,
enduring community. Yeah.
yeah. I would say it's very similar to the mycelium network, and I might have shared this story with you, Gloria, last time we spoke. But this was something that came to me. We were leading a small private ceremony, and in my backyard, and I heard this voice over my roof, and it was as clear as us talking. And I was just like, what's that voice coming from over my roof? And we have these two just massive ancient magnolia trees in our front yard, and the voice was of those magnolia trees, the spirit of the trees. And it was telling me that we as humans, as people, are the very tip extension of the mycelium network.
Mm,
And at the time, I was like kind of confused, because in my head, I'm like, we're people, we're not mushrooms, or, but it explained it very well. It said, just like I was about to go down to the Amazon rainforest, at the time, it said, you're going down there and you're going to receive all of this medicine, this knowledge, this wisdom, and then you're going to bring it back to your home, and you're going to share it with your family and friends, and then they're going to get stronger,
mm,
and they're going to learn the same things that you went down to learn. And they said, just like the mycelium network in the forest underground, the trees, are connecting with this mycelium network, and the mycelium network is allowing these trees to share nutrients, to share resources, to help, the little seedling that needs more sunlight grow. And so I thought it was really interesting. It just said that us humans, are able to travel a little differently than the mycelium network underground. And so that really put it into perspective for me. And so, um,
Yeah. I
yeah, building
remember
the community that way. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love how nature reveals that intercommunication. You know, how we have the differentiation and yet we still have the linkage. And I love that the tree spoke to you and that you recognized it. And that just kind of gives us a little bitty glimpse of what's possible. And depending on each individual that feels called, they'll have their own unique experience, is what I'm hearing from you. And that's a beautiful thing. What I'm also really loving is hearing how you take the time to really get to know people and to provide them a real personalized experience that meets them right where they are. And so when there's somebody that, oh, what was it? When they're moving through that journey and when they might hit like a little fear, a little worry, what I'm hearing you've said is that you would gently guide them back to focus their attention back to their heart. not to ignore what came up, but to pay attention to it and then to be in choice to be able to develop their capacity about where they focus their attention. Is that true?
Yeah, and so I tell people this was more in the beginning. I would when we started doing this work years ago. I haven't said it recently, but I remember telling people if something scary comes up or you start to get have fear from what you're seeing, and my first teacher and I really talked a lot about this. But I tell people to give that thing love, and however that is, like it might be scary to, you see this scary, quote monster um, in front of you or in your vision in your head. Just visualize going up and giving it a hug, and every time that happens, that thing just goes away. It disappears. When you give it love or some message comes through where you're like, oh, that was a part of my subconscious, or that was a part of me that I was ignoring. And when I gave it love, it transformed into like a
Mhm.
flower. And so, even I share in this real world, like if my wife and I are going through something, or you and your spouse, or a friend, it could be anyone, a kid, your child. Um, it might be a little different with the child. The child might like not appreciate this practice, but I found that even though it's super hard to do, like in the middle of like a disagreement, if you just go up and like give your partner a hug, when they're not expecting it, or like maybe, your partner is kind of like upset with you about something, or, is giving you the cold shoulder. Maybe you're kind of like in a mood where you're like mad at that other person. If you just go up and give them a hug and like just really like love them, that vibration of love just has a magical way of like transforming the frequency, and it's pretty magical what love can do.
That's so interesting because I wanted to ask you, if there was one tiny daily practice that could keep our heart online and in alignment with us. And it seems like you've just given that is the answer of what you just shared. And I loved how you described it. It sounds very simple and you could do it daily. Well, maybe not so simple in heated moments, but um, but definitely something we could all do. Wow, it just yeah, it gave me
Well,
some inspiration.
well, even with ourself, from what I'm hearing, if we get, because we have those inner critics, we have those inner dialogue. I know I do. And to take that moment and to be kind to myself, to befriend, one way I'll say it with clients is inviting them to befriend their inner dragon,
Mhm.
and then, it becomes their friend. They don't have to be enemies with it. Um, One thing I wanted to circle back around to, because I really want this conversation to land with parents, because I know that's really a big part of your heart. And so if there's a if there's a mom or a dad and they're feeling like they've kind of lost themselves, and what's a gentle first step back toward their bigger purpose? I know you said that you felt like you'd lost your purpose and then you found it again. If you could maybe just speak to that.
Yeah, so um, I always go back to the medicine and nature, and we mentioned 2 nights of ceremony equaling 30 years of therapy. In my experience, I don't know if I would have found my purpose without connecting deeper into nature and the medicine that is out there. And so it doesn't have to be the medicine that we work with, just kind of whatever you're feeling called to. But these sacred medicines just have a way of tapping my people into their purpose. And so this isn't for everybody. I'm not necessarily trying to do this with every single person in the world. um, it's just these select few or groups of people that resonate with this conversation. And I'm finding that the practices that we practice, uh, make a bigger impact with those people instead of trying to get something to fit where it doesn't. And so microdosing is a great way to start. And if someone is maybe not ready to step into like a weekend ceremony, um, you also there's ways to plug into like microdosing mushrooms, and that's been a very gentle way of tapping deeper into your purpose and getting messages that I don't think can come from anywhere else. But uh, the medicine has a magical way of almost like getting rid of the the blocks and the things that prevent us from tapping into these answers. And so I don't know if it's so much the medicine giving us the answer, um, but the medicine is removing all the blocks to where you download the message. So it's coming from you and God, and the medicine is just kind of helping make it easier for you to like receive these messages. And so, I work with last year exclusively with moms, but now we're opening it up to moms and dads through our microdosing program, and it's really helping. Not only just tapping into your purpose, but just calming the nervous system and bringing smiles back. I had a mom message me the other day. She's like, I think this is working. You see her post online are just totally different from before she was microdosing to after. They're just more positive, more full of love. And again, tapping into that vibration, is a way to connect deeper into your purpose, is following your heart, the vibration of the heart.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
sounds amazing. And it sounds like this might be a great segue in asking you what you might want to leave our listeners with. What invitation would you make that you would have them to do maybe in the next 24 hours or to be thinking about in these next days?
It's a song that I sing, and it was a song that I was with a friend in the forest, and it just came to me, and it's pretty simple, but just follow your heart. It won't let you down. Follow your heart. It will not lead you astray. And so I think a lot of us lose that connection through the job, through the daily chores of raising a family. Like Gloria said, sometimes we forget about ourselves,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you know, just follow the breadcrumbs. It doesn't have to be this huge aha moment like I found my purpose. It usually starts with a small little breadcrumb, like listening to this podcast,
Mm,
or, you know, uh, maybe, you're drawn to mushrooms and you start growing your own like lion's mane. You can go online and there's stores where you can like grow your own lion's mane, and that's really good for your brain and growing new neural pathways. And so it's like just these small little things. And once we start doing that, I'm finding that these new networks open up in our brain, uh,
Mhm.
new possibilities, and it's things that we could have never like pre-planned. You just have to like take action, and that first step of taking action opens up five other doors of opportunities. And so
mm,
just keep following those breadcrumbs, and it
mm,
won't lead you astray.
Mm,
mm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love the conversation with you. And I'm sure there's people out there that are going to be like, well, how can I get a hold of Grizz? So how can people reach out to you directly? What's the best way?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram, it's under Grizz, Grizz, and then the last name is Bear, Berr. And so you can look me up there. And then we also, after we connect, we have testimonials and reviews. We have a specific website where people can go on and leave reviews. It's kind of like a Google reviews, but for the ceremony work. And so you can read reviews of all different
Mm,
retreat centers around the U.S. And so, we have a, a profile on that site where you can kind of see what other people are saying about us. in an
Mm.
unbiased way.
Okay,
Wonderful.
well, we'll include those in the show notes so people can click on those links there to get access to you and start those conversations.
Yes, absolutely. So interesting. And if this episode supported you, we'd love it if you'd follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs a grounded conversation about safety, grief, and integration.
Yes, and then next week we are welcoming Salua, who is a radiant purpose guide and community builder, for a heart-forward conversation about living your purpose with depth, devotion, and real life embodiment.
Until then, we invite you to notice what your body is telling you.
And remember, all healing is relational.